Welcome back to another Star Mini Gaming YouTube video. In this video I just wanted to talk about something in wargaming that I feel like we all do, but kind of, I don't know, I guess taking it to another level. If you're familiar with Maroc and his YouTube channel and a few others, you'll see quite a bit of evidence in what they do of what I'm going to talk about now, and that is making your army uniquely your own. In Age of Sigmar, you know, we're pretty early into the narrative, and perhaps like no other point in Warhammer, you know, fantasy history, we have the opportunity to make armies uniquely our own. If you played classic Warhammer, especially, you know, towards the end of the end times, there was 30 plus years of lore and history to the world. It's a single world. It's a relatively small space when compared to 40K, Star Wars, lots of other, you know, lots of other popular like kind of narrative settings, and in some ways even smaller than Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. Now, not necessarily in terms of total landmass, but just in some ways, perhaps even smaller than that. And so there's not necessarily a whole lot of ways that you can really imprint yourself onto the game. No, that's not to say you couldn't, but not to the same degree that we have the opportunity of in Age of Sigmar. You know, we have a evolving narrative that's very early on, so there's lots of things, number one, that aren't entirely answered, and certainly, number two, are not set in stone, in the sense of there are so many details that are open for you to explore and play with. That's, in my opinion, the beauty of the 40K setting. Obviously, you know, 40K has a lot of, in my opinion, kind of problems that need to be dealt with in terms of the narrative kind of weaknesses to it and all, but that's not what we're here to focus on. We're here to focus on taking those openings, which there's obviously a very broad expanse of them right now in Age of Sigmar, and combining that with modeling your own models, your own troops, your own figures, however you like to make them more uniquely your own. Whenever we paint our models, such as this Black Knight, who will be standing in as one of my Blood Knights for now. I hate the actual Blood Knight models, and until I get a more suitable model, my Black Knights, my 5 of them, will be painted up and converted up a little bit to kind of be a skeleton equivalent of the Blood Knights. And that's just one way that I want to, you know, kind of illustrate a very simple, just change of paint scheme can really make a model more uniquely yours. Now, if you've watched my first couple of narrative campaign videos, you are familiar with my Vampirist Lord on Zombie Dragons Anessa, who is the commander of my death forces, my entire army. And I am actually continuing to make her more uniquely my own. Let's see how well the camera can get her. Okay. So if you've watched the videos, you are probably familiar with the fact that she is heavily based off of Neferata, the model. She's also combined with the vampire ladies from the Coven Throne set, and a few other bits and bobs just kind of here and there put together. And just the other day I decided that I wanted to further differentiate her from Neferata, and so I cut off the top end of her staff and took a little bit of Manfred von Karstein's scythe, or whatever you want to call it, and attach that to the top as if it was the top edge of her staff. Hopefully you can see a little bit better there. And as you can see, she has her blood chalice. And so even though she was nearly completely painted, I continued to change her up. I put a little skeleton from Reaper on her base. I have another model that I don't actually have on me that I'm going to put on the base. I took some various bits from some zombie kits and some skeleton kits, and even a Empire handgunner or crossbowman's kit, and I'm putting together a model that is basically an old, long dead Empire crossbowman who is crawling up out of the ground, still clutching his hat and his bow. That will be on her base soon, and a few other just little odds and ends to kind of give it more personality, because she's the commander of my army. I want her to be a highly unique model, especially as I continue to kind of evolve and develop the narrative that is based around her in the narrative campaign. And in this little bag right here, I have various other odds and end bits that will continue to be used to make her unique. I have a sword that I've created for her from Stormcast's swords, Gladius or whatever they call it, for the adjudicators that you can clip on their sides. I have an extra one, so I clipped off the handle and I attached it to part of one of the skeleton swords that came in the Black Knight kit, and just a few other odds and ends to kind of make a vampiric sword that will be by her side. I took a shield from one of the Black Knight kits and I am converting it up slightly, and that'll be her vampiric shield, so that she will have, all the options on her, so I can play her in any way that I kind of choose to build her out. And then I have the model that you may have seen on the Google Plus community if you are part of the PMP. I've made a little bit of progress on it. This is my Coven Throne that I am converting up and painting up now. Still have a long ways to go on it, but a few noticeable changes are there is not the little pool of blood at the front. There is also not the any of the vampire ladies on this. I do not have both of the tapestry kind of curtain pieces up top, and a few other odds and ends that I've swapped out. I cut initially I put the Mortis engine front kind of guardrails where you would appear where you would normally have the book, and I cut off the front of that to allow this custom skeleton warrior who's standing up front, who is designed to kind of match the 3 horsemen up front, except for, he's a completely unique model. He's got the legs from a skeleton warrior. He's got the kind of kilt-like tunic bit from a Lord of the Rings orc warrior that I had an extra of. He has the body and head and shoulders from the Black Knight kit, and then the 2 sword arms are from the parts of the sword arms anyways are from the Mortis engine and Coven Throne set. There's the 2 little skeletons that if you build the Coven Throne you clip on where these kind of front guardrails are, right next to where he's standing. And since I didn't build the Coven Throne with those and the other kit that I have, I built the Mortis engine, which clearly doesn't have them either. I was able to use the sword arms to kind of make a unique sword-armed skeletal model that matched the aesthetic of these front 4. And now the reason I'm doing this is I'm taking this Necromancer and I'd like to make some conversions to him. I'm just not quite sure exactly how yet. And he will be placed up top over here where these, kind of pillowy commander area is. And that is to match the character from the book Stormcast, Mopus, who is a necromancer who has his own Coven Throne, and the kind of skeletal guys up front for him are these kind of ghostly princes that protect him and study under him. So I want to have a model of that character. If you haven't read the novel Stormcast, I've done a review for it, which will be up on my channel soon. It's by far my favorite one of the Age of Sigmar novels that have come out thus far. The audiobooks are obviously a bit expensive. They're $50 a pop, but if I could recommend only one to actually get the audiobook of, it would be that one. The novel Stormcast is excellent, and they have 2 people kind of narrate the story. Ordinarily they have one gentleman, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, that does, I think, every one of the books, and he's really good. But then they had a woman come in to voice the female character whenever it was a chapter from her perspective, and she was amazing. That really kind of elevated it even more, in my opinion, to being somewhat of a treat just to listen to that book. I've gone through that book more times than any other ones, and I cannot highly recommend it enough in its audiobook format. But Mopus is a very important character in that book. He has a very interesting arc, somewhat similar to Vlad from the End Times. He has the whole kind of kind of self-centered beginning where he's only focused on himself and his learning, and then he has an old friend who has become a Stormcast come to him in a time of requiring aid, and then we see the full progression from self-centered, kind of locking himself away and ignoring the rest of the world, to a moment of redemption and self-sacrifice to try to buy the Stormcasts enough time to complete their mission. And he is such a cool character that I really wanted a model to represent him. And a Coven Throne is just a good model. I need one for my army. And so as I continue the kind of narrative campaign with Anessa, Mopus and his Mortis engine will soon be joining her. So again, like I was saying, those two are clearly ways that I'm trying to make my army more uniquely mine instead of Vargeist. Another example of models that I've swapped out or am converting. I took 3 of the Reaper Bones gargoyles and I have converted them all up. You'll see them in the various battle reports and all. I like them better. I think they look better than the Vargeist. They're about $2-3 instead of about $30 for the set, $2-3 each. I have this model that I picked up. It's a Chimera, also from the Reaper Bones line. It was about $5, and I'm going to get paint this up and probably get a few more of these, and these will be Vargulfs. Not that I dislike the Vargulf, but I just think these Chimeras are really cool. I'm going to paint them up to kind of be ghostly undead looking, as if they've been reanimated. But that's the point, right? Is like making the model more and more uniquely yours, to kind of build the narrative that you have created for your army. We already make every model uniquely ours to a degree. Whenever we paint it, we put the time and effort into it, and converting your models, and especially if you're like me and you like to make kind of a backstory for your army for every battle that you fight, it just kind of takes that another step forward, and just kind of, at least for myself, is just one more level of immersion in the hobby. And I just wanted to create this video to kind of encourage others to do the same, have an opportunity for people to share below or respond and how, with their own videos perhaps, on how they kind of personalize their own army, make it uniquely theirs, and again, just kind of put the topic out there. But until next time, this is James, and happy gaming.